Can you just talk us through the significance of the bridge that was blown up and why Mr. Putin holds it in such high esteem? What is the significance of the Crimea Bridge?
Well, I think that the significance is more on the level of psychology and morale than military operations. I say that simply as a viewer, like almost all of us. I don't want to be one of those instant experts like we had the instant epidemiologist during the COVID pandemic, instant military expert now, just applying analytical common sense to what we see. The function of the bridge as a logistical supply chain to the Russian military effort through Crimea has not been eliminated. The trains are still running, even light traffic is running, although freight has to now go on a ferry until the damaged carriageway of the road bridge is repaired. So operationally, the impact is limited. In terms of psychology and morale, however, this is a major achievement by the Ukrainian operatives who caused the explosion on the bridge, penetrating the Russian security cordon at the entrance to the bridge on both sides, especially on the mainland Russian side. And this will be, of course, clearly is going to be a focus of pretty severe recriminations in Moscow, how that was allowed to happen. So the level of psychology, yes, and in any war, the morale and fighting spirit is of the utmost importance for the outcome. However, I would say you just mentioned the battlefronts in the Ukrainian theater itself. My own view would be that the outcome of this war will depend decisively in the end on what happens on those fronts in the east, in the Donbass and Kharkiv, in the southwest, in Kherson region, potentially a new front in the center if the Ukrainian forces mount a long expected offensive down towards the Black Sea coast from Zaporizhia to try to cut off the Russian occupied territories in the middle. What happens on those fronts will be decisive, and one or other side will prevail. It may take a long time. The other side will lose the will or the ability to fight on. Scenarios for both are absolutely realistic, and that is the outcome. We're beyond any type of compromise, diplomatic talks. It's a fight towards collapse on either side on the battlefront.
Well, as you were speaking, we just got some lines out of the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He says, "It is a tough morning. We are dealing with terrorists." That is a quote. He says that Russian strikes targeted energy infrastructure throughout the country, but the second target was people. Clearly it has been quite the morning over there in Ukraine, with the residential targets also being the subject to these missile attacks. I want to come back to what you were saying about a potential off-ramp, because this is what President Biden said only last week. He said, look, we need to find a way to provide President Putin with an off-ramp. Where do you think that could come from? How would it materialize?
Well, I may have misread the quote from President Biden myself, or misunderstood it. But if I recall correctly, he said that he cannot see where the off-ramp for President Putin lies, or something to that effect. Now, by implication, I think you're right. He and his team are thinking about where that off-ramp may lie, but the actual quote was he can't see it. And if he can't see it, certainly neither can I. As I say, I guess the only angle I would mention, if only to demonstrate the difficulty of finding any off-ramp, the difficulty referred to by President Biden, is a statement by the head of the upper house of the Russian Federal Parliament, a lady called Valentina Matvienko, last week, who indicated after the annexation of the 4 territories that Russia would defend those territories. Their incorporation into Russia was non-negotiable. But on the other hand, Russia would not go further. That was the absolutely unmistakable essence of her statement. Now, of course, is no kind of basis for any type of negotiation which will be acceptable to Ukraine or the United States and other Western countries supporting Ukraine. So I just mentioned that just as a sense of where the sides are and their thinking, but also to try to underline my point that I don't see any type of scope for negotiations, discussion. This is a fight until collapse.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.